Every time I open YouTube or Reddit lately, it's the same thing. Embark doesn't care. Embark is ruining the game. Embark has no idea what they're doing. The streamers have all but moved on. The community is furious. And honestly, I get it. When something you love frustrates you, you want someone to blame. But before you write Embark off completely, I want to show you something. Because I think the story you're being told is missing some very important chapters. Let's talk about it. Look, I get it. The Arc Raiders community is frustrated right now. Riven Tides dropped last week, and the backlash has been loud. Weapon nerfs, loot complaints, overwhelming Arc presence. I made a whole video about it, and you guys showed up in big numbers because you felt it too. But the Riven Tides complaints are just the latest chapter in a story that has been building for months. Reddit is basically calling for Embark's head. Most of the big streamers have packed up and moved on. The narrative has been decided. Embark doesn't listen. Embark doesn't care. I've even heard Embark is killing their own game. And I sat with that narrative for a while. I read the posts. I watched the streams. I understood where it was coming from, but something kept bothering me. Because when I actually looked at what Embark has been doing since the game launched, the story I was seeing did not match the story everybody was telling. So I did research, and before you make your decision about Embark, I want to show you what I found. But before we get into the evidence, I want to make sure you understand who Embark actually is, because I think most people skip this part. See, Embark is a small Swedish studio. They spent 7 years building Arc Raiders. They pivoted the entire game design halfway through development. They changed their business model, and they even released their first game, the finals, just to prove that they can ship a live service game before Arc Raiders ever launched. When Arc Raiders came out in October of 25, it sold 12 million copies in just 10 weeks. By their own admission, they were shocked. This was not the launch that they planned for. This was bigger than anything they expected. Now, here's what they did with that success. While studios across the entire gaming industry were announcing layoffs, Embark went in the opposite direction. They started hiring. They grew the studio. They published roadmaps committing to monthly content updates. And the CEO, Patrick Soderlund, went on record saying Arc Raiders gives them the financial security to keep building for a long time. To me, that's not a studio that doesn't care. That's a studio that got hit by a wave they didn't see coming, and they paddled as hard as they could to stay on top of it. Now, let me show you the receipts. For example, and by the way, these aren't just opinions, these are actual examples of Embark movement, like the crafting system. For months, players complained that gathering materials required clicking through multiple menus just to find what you needed. It was frustrating and clunky. Embark heard it. They shipped a fix in the Flashpoint update that consolidated everything into one window, and then publicly said that that was just the start and they committed to keep going. Or what about that whole AI voice lines controversy? When the game launched, players pushed back hard on the AI-generated voices in the game. Patrick Soderlund did not get defensive. He admitted publicly that human actors are simply better. They re-recorded lines with real performers and said the studio has no interest in replacing voice talent. Or how about the weekly patch update complaints? When players started complaining that weekly patches were too small, Embark didn't go silent. Their community leads stepped in publicly, explained the difference between weekly quality of life patches and monthly major updates, and they kept the community informed rather than just leaving them guessing. And remember the Il Toro shotgun nerf? It was dominating every engagement, and the community was very vocal about it. Embark nerfed it directly and specifically in response to that feedback. The patch notes even acknowledged the community concern by name. See, 4 examples. 4 times Embark heard the community and acted, and there's many more. That's not a studio that doesn't care. That is a studio that is listening even when you don't realize it. Look, I'm not here to tell you that Embark gets everything right. They don't. Riven Tides had real problems, and I said so. The cheating situation continues to be frustrating. There are things they need to fix, and the community has every right to hold them accountable, but there is a difference between holding a developer accountable and writing them off completely. And right now I'm watching a community that is ready to burn it all down around a studio that spent 7 years building a game, doubled down when they didn't have to, and has a track record of actually listening when it matters. So here's the deal. Before you give up on Embark, before you close the game for the last time and move on, let me challenge you. Name me a studio doing more for their community right now than Embark is doing for us. I don't think there is one, but I want to know what you think. Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. Even if you disagree with me, I welcome your opinions. And if you want more than what YouTube gets, consider joining the Patreon. The link is in the description. I'll see you topside.